Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started in a moment, letting everybody else join in. My math brain is saying all of these participants coming in. I'm watching the graph go up and up, which is quite fun to see. We're going to have a great crew again today. Catherine, we're going to get started, I think, in a moment here. Let's let everybody take a look again at these intro slides for a reminder on your controls. Just for a heads up, everybody, welcome to day 2 on Google Classroom, our LMS 101. We wanted to remind you that the controls look differently when we're in the webinar situation, and there are a few things that happen automatically for you. One is your audio and video are automatically turned off because we want to preserve bandwidth, and we also want to highlight our ASL interpreters for today. Also to note, your chat features are turned off because with this many people, it gets a little chaotic with everybody chatting. In your chat feature today, remember that your chat feature will be where we can share links out to you or information out to you. And your Q&A button that you'll see on the bottom of your screen, the Q&A button, please use your Q&A for questions. It's not a chat feature. If you have something specific that you're wondering about, especially about Google today or the features we're doing, or you really want more clarity on something, please use the Q&A for questions about the content for today. We would love to be chatting, but there's too many people to do our regular chat, and that's why it's turned off. Also to note that your attendance today is automatically taken. You get it. The attendance is done with the cool Zoom login stuff, so don't worry about attendance. We've already gotten that covered. Also to note, today we will be giving you the link to the slide deck, so you have all of the resources again, and you can venture as you please with it. One other note on those controls on the bottom, you all have a closed caption. Thank you, Heather, for doing closed caption for us today. Feel free to click on that button to turn it off and to turn it on as you please. That might be a nice thing for you to follow along with. And with that, I think we're ready to rumble. So Catherine, thank you so much for today, just reminding us that we are on people's land. There have been first people here and still here for ages and ages, and we want to respect that. I was mindful, and thank you for that. Those questions yesterday. I'm thinking about the Salish language and how math works for the Salish language, and I love it. I can't wait to continue my exploration and learning with that. And we invite you all to think about and be respectful for the people's land that you are on and that we are on today. We have a great crew of people today. On the background, you're not going to see them on video, but they'll be helping to answer questions and being able to take care of links for you. We've got Andrew Hickman, we've got Christina Wambold, we've got Amy Colburn, we've got Larry Davidson. Also, we've got Catherine Livick and I will be running the show today. And Catherine, I'm excited for all the goodies that you're going to be leading us through. Thank you so much. And also remember that the ASL interpreters are doing a great job, and we thank you for them, and thank you, Heather, for doing closed caption. As a crew across the ESDs, remember on the slide deck, you can find our names and our email addresses right there. You can click on that to reach out to us for support. Today in our series, we're going to be looking at part 2. Remember that we have 3 days. And so yesterday we were really digging into the beginnings of things and starting that frame of what the Google management system looks like. And today we're really going to be thinking about how do you manage your materials and selecting resources and what works and doesn't work in this learning management system.
Thank you, Jeff. And I'm Catherine. You might have noticed me talking at you yesterday, and a little bit more detail on what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about how we organize things in Google Classroom, and it's very much up to you how you do that, but I'm going to show you some options. We're going to talk about how you add content and materials to your class in Google Classroom, and touch on some resources that integrate with Google Classroom before we send you off to practice and hopefully play a little bit more. And hopefully you got a chance to do that last night as well. And on that note, Andrew is going to ask some questions about exactly that.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a Zoom poll. I'm going to start it in a few seconds. We simply want you to vote. There are 2 questions. And so the first question is, what was your exploration like with accessing, creating, and inviting others, which is what we asked you to explore last night, just giving us feedback on what you were able to try, as well as what are you most excited to learn today? And it goes over a little bit of what we go today. So I'm going to launch that poll. It is in Zoom, so it will appear on your screen. So just respond to the poll, please. So once again, the poll has been shared through Zoom, which is the polling feature. Just as a little bit of background, to use the polling feature, you can set them up live, but it is recommended you set up the poll in advance because it takes a few minutes.
Andrew, thank you so much for doing this. I love seeing the data come in. We really appreciate you doing the poll to help inform us so that we can better understand how to maybe amplify some certain things today, or to ask some specific questions, or even provide some specific tools to you.
Yes, and once I end the poll and we see almost everybody has replied, I will share the results with everybody to see exactly what our responses were. So far, I'm noticing that they're most excited to learn today, a little bit ahead of everything else, around organizing materials. So about another 30 seconds. If you have not replied to the poll, please do so. It should have popped up on your screen. If it did not pop up on your screen, if you move your mouse, the little black bar might have a polling button at the bottom with a poll ready for you. About 10 more seconds.
Andrew, I love how many people are excited about the poll features and asking these questions. It's
Me
like
too.
we're all explorers and can't wait to ask another question. I want to learn. I want to learn. It's a great time for us to be alive.
And we've already had 510 responses. And this took less than 2 minutes to get 510 responses. Okay, so I'm about to end the poll and then we can share the results. 3, 2, 1, ending the poll. Now I'm going to share the results with you so you can see. You can now view the poll results. So it looks like last night we have some people that were able to get there. So about 50% dabbled a little and were able to get there. And we even have 24% at rock star status, which I love using that phrase. And then today, it looks like they're just excited to learn everything. But overall, the biggest one was definitely organizing their materials, which is important for the classroom. Okay, and with that, I will pass it back to Catherine and Jeff. Thank you for taking the poll.
Well, everything it is. That's what I'll do. I'll just teach everything. I don't know if I can do that. But we do have a lot of stuff we're going to cover today. So we are going to jump over. Whoops, sorry. Always clicking the wrong window. We're going to jump over into the tool here in just a minute. Jeff, did you have anything to reiterate about this slide? We kind of mentioned this.
Yeah, I think it's so important that as we have tools, we have to remember that we want to frame our thinking as we're using tools. Many of us get really excited about features, and I know at our hearts we really want what's best for students. What we want is best for learners, all learners. So be mindful that we have to drive our decision making around a good framework. And the links that we provided yesterday, they're going to be provided again today. Please take a look at those at your own leisure and investigate and think about how do you want to frame out your decision making, because as you're putting everything into your virtual classroom, as you're framing it out, it's almost like that poster on the wall that you would hang in your classroom. What is it that you're going to do in the virtual environment? What is it that you're going to use these tools to do and to create? And how are you going to frame that out so that you can meet every learner the best ways that we can?
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, and as we mentioned before, you'll have these links to continue exploring as you'll have the slide deck just like yesterday. So if you're interested in exploring any more of those ideas, you can definitely do that. So we're going to spend most of our time today over in the tool in Google Classroom, and we're going to start talking about organization and layout. Now, with Google Classroom, there aren't a lot of layout options necessarily. It pretty much looks like it looks, but there are a few things we can think about with regard to organization. I want to just start by doing a really quick review of the lay of the land here, and it looked like a good number of you were able to get in and play yesterday and poke around. So hopefully this is still sticking in your mind, and that's great. But I want to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. You'll see that I have some classes in my home base today. This is my home page for Google Classroom because I'm using a different account that has some classes in it because I'm going to show you some different stuff. I have my left menu over here with the 3 lines, and that will always get me home if I click on the little house. I have my calendar access here. I have classes I'm teaching gathered up in this section with a to review, which, remember, that's the pile of work that I have to correct that's sitting on my desk. And down here are some classes I'm enrolled in as a student and a to-do list for that. Archived classes and the settings where I can look at my notifications for anything that I want to receive in my email about Classroom. Going back to that home page, we have different classes displayed here as cards. I'm honestly not sure if that's the official Google word for those. Jeff, maybe you know, but that's what I think of them as little cards that display for each classroom.
Yeah, I call them cards too.
Yeah, and I call them that in Canvas. So maybe that's universal and I just didn't know. But as you can see, they each have a different theme. For me, I'm kind of big into color coding. That helps my brain. So I always make sure that mine look different. Your mileage may vary. And for each of these, I can see the title, how many students are enrolled, some things that are coming up. I can click on my 3 dots. Remember, those 3 dots menus are always very important. And I have some options here. One of them is relevant to layout because I can move this class. And I don't have like ultimate control over it, but I can make sure that it's up at the top all the time if I want the Welcome to Google to be there, or I can move this one to the bottom and then it's going to be down on the bottom of my list. So I have some options to kind of move these around and put them in the order of my class periods or my schedule in my day, whatever works for my brain. And for me, it works to have this particular one at the top. So that's one layout option that you have. I have a couple of other links that are in the card for my classroom. And this one links to the gradebook. And if you're not seeing that here, it's because I am a student in this class. And I can tell this says open my work. As I hover, it gives me a little tooltip about what that button does. So when in doubt, you can hover your mouse and go, oh, what is that? One more really quick note about Google Classroom. You can see that there are folder links on each of these, and we very briefly touched on the idea yesterday that Google Classroom stores its work in a folder in Google Drive. It's all one system. I want to just give a personal caution that I'm always telling people, and Google doesn't really emphasize this, but I actually once sent them a help request and asked them to put a skull and crossbones on that folder, because you'll see a folder in Google Drive labeled Classroom. There's work in there. You can look at stuff. You can open stuff up. That's fine. But if you start moving stuff around in there, it's going to really confuse your Google Classroom system. And to the point where I experienced with one teacher that I was working with, she moved some stuff around or had some permissions errors in that folder. And all of a sudden, her entire 5th grade class could edit all of each other's work all the time. As you can imagine, that was really fun. So
Making sure I'm catching that, because I do a lot of work in Google Drive in my folders. I'm understanding that the work that's created in Google Classroom, it's put into its own folder system. And I've seen that pop up. As soon as I joined Google Classroom, I noticed at my root level of Google Drive, there was a folder called Classroom. So in there, all of my classrooms will have their own folders. That's what you're saying. And I probably should not touch them and move them around like I would organize all the other stuff in my Google Drive, because Google's sending the stuff to the right folders. And I don't want to mess it up for permissions, and I don't want to mess up the organization. That's what you're saying in the classroom part.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's best to use the classroom interface, this thing you're looking at right now, to do your organization in Classroom. And some of you might have used other systems in the past. Some people have used Hopara, where you drag things in and out of folders to post them to the class. It doesn't work that way for Google. So just use caution and try not to move stuff around in that folder, because you could cause problems. Doesn't mean you can't look at it or open it up, but I was only kind of half joking about the skull and crossbones. I kind of want people to be like, don't touch it. Okay. So just a little note on that. So if you see that folder link, it's okay to click it. In fact, I'll show you what mine looks like. But again, I don't want to tempt you to go in and mess around too much with it. Within my Classroom folder, I have a folder for every class. And then within my classroom itself, my 2019 test classroom, I have a folder for every assignment. And within that, anything that I've put in that assignment or that has been turned in, student work, will all show up there. But if I start dragging things around, it's going to be a problem. So I don't want to stay on that point for too long, but I just, sometimes when people are new to this system, that's a place they can get into trouble. So I would like to spare you that pain if possible. So back to the layout of this page. We have looked at how we can move classes around to get them into a different order. We already know that we can change the theme and color code these classes differently by opening them up, select a different theme, or upload a photo of our own. And that will give us a little bit of that layer of organization if that's something that works for us. And we also need to remember, we always create or join a class with the plus button here. If I'm inside my classroom, there's organization within the classroom. Remember, we always have the stream, the classwork, the people, and the grades from left to right across the top, and the settings gear over here at the top right, which gives me the option to do things like rethink whether I want students to be able to post on my stream wall unfettered. And we talked about that yesterday. This is where we can look at these settings. So within the classroom, there are some more layers of organization that we touched on yesterday. You are going to organize your whole world in Classroom in a way that works for you. As I've said, often primary or elementary teachers will have just one classroom, and it would be Ms. Livick's classroom, and I would have all my assignments in there for whatever subjects I teach. Maybe I use another layer of organization and I assign topics to my assignments. So if it's a reading assignment, it would have the reading topic. If it's a writing assignment, it would have the writing topic assigned. And we'll look at how you assign and create those topics in a moment. So that's another way I can organize. I might decide to organize by subject if I teach a traditional multi-period day at possibly secondary level. Maybe I have math class, and maybe I have science class, and maybe I have an advisory, whatever. I could have a classroom for each one of those. We touched on collaborating with other teachers yesterday, since you can add co-teachers, and you could have someone you actually co-teach physically with be a co-teacher with you in Google, or you could create any kind of other collaboration with someone else that you teach with that you can think of. That's that great opportunity to rethink what you're doing. One really great use for Google Classroom that I've seen as an instructional coach is that it can be used for PLC, professional learning communities. And if you want to form a grade level classroom with people that you plan lessons with in your school, that's a good place to share resources. There are many, many opportunities for you to organize this however you would like. So back to the topics. When we're in this classwork tab, you'll see your topics appear on the left. You could use those to organize by unit of study. So, you know, unit 1, unit 2, or maybe your unit has a name, you know, maybe it's my ancient India unit that I used to teach when I taught ancient world civilizations. You can use it for categories of activity. So it could be, you know, a reading activity, a writing activity, or just a subject. That's completely up to you because it's flexible and customizable. Once things are in your classwork page, each of these is an assignment. Kind of talks to me about where I've posted them, if they have a due date, and I'll tell you why these are different in a minute. I also have the option to do some things with always looking at that 3 dots menu. If you want to know what options do I have, just check out the 3 dots and you will find out. So I can rename this maps topic. I can delete it. I can copy the link to that topic if I wanted to share that with a student, say, go look at all your maps assignments. I could move that down so it appears below writing. It kind of defaulted to alphabetical, but I could change that. And within these categories are assignments, and this one is actually a materials post, which we'll talk about in a second. I have 3 dots on those too. I can copy a link to that specific assignment. I can edit, I can delete, I can move it up and down within that category. So a few more organization options within your classwork tab. I always, in my mind, try to call it the classwork stream, but that's confusing. The stream is for your announcements and the classwork is for your assignments. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I have to keep reminding myself of the proper terminology so I can stay organized. One more layer of organization to think about is how you organize the assignments that you create. And this is the part that I remember struggling with when I started learning how to teach online and how to create assignments that were going to be distributed digitally without me ever being in the room in front of the people who needed to know what to do. Hopefully you'll have some synchronous live time with your students, but you may not necessarily have a lot. Everybody's schedule is going to be different. I know we're all having all kinds of fun figuring out how that's going to work. But you need to make sure that because students will be coming back to these assignments on their own time and in their own way, you need to make sure your instructions are very clear in your assignments. Think about how your instructions are given and ordered. Think about how materials are attached and how you talk about what you want them to do. And there's a little trial and error involved, and it's okay if you're not perfect at first. What I personally have learned, and I'm sure that anybody else on our panel could chime in if they had a story about this, I've learned that the students will tell you, especially if they're middle school students, if something doesn't make sense. And teachers will also tell you if it doesn't make sense, and you should listen because they're going to have some good ideas. They'll say, you know, you posted that assignment and you said, do the thing and read the instructions here, but I didn't really get it. So maybe that means I need to put the instructions in the actual assignment as well as on the worksheet that I'm assigning. So,
Catherine, I really appreciate that. It sounds like getting a script to make sure that it's clearer and getting feedback from students so I know that it's clear to them, and then sticking to that consistent script and way of doing it, almost having like my recipe book of make sure I do it this way every time, because we do want to lower that stress level for students. We do want to make it a routine, and we want to provide that structure for them.
absolutely. And like I said, they'll get into the groove pretty quickly, maybe faster than you do. And they will go with it. I have seen my own personal kid adopt some workflows that I found personally very confusing as a technology instructor and pick them up very quickly and be very successful with them. So you don't have to be perfect right now. And I think that's an overarching theme that we need to stick with, because we're all learning a lot of new stuff at once, and it's hard. Okay, so be nice to yourself, but be willing to listen. Listen to your students, and they'll help you out. Any other commentary on organization from anyone else on the panel? Any questions coming in that I need to address now?
I did notice that there's a question about topics and that they default into alpha order. And how can we change this? Somebody would like to be able to do it by oldest to newest, or maybe just reorganize it. So not the individual assignments, but the topics.
With the topics, I think the only organizational strategy I have is to move them up or down in the list. Does anyone know differently than that?
What happens if you click on like the word maps? And I'm sorry, not click, but click and hold. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it just
Can you move it that way too? Can you drag and move it?
Probably drag it. Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, look at that. You can
Cool.
also grab assignments and move them into different topics as well. So if you've created an assignment and you forgot to add a topic to it, or like because it goes in Unit 1 or in your writing category or whatever it is, you can move things around by just grabbing them and moving them. So you can order it however you want to. And Catherine, thanks for showing that ... on the side. You can definitely change it by moving it down or just grabbing it and moving it.
Yeah, and I don't believe that you can add more than one topic to an assignment.
No, I don't think so yet, because that's where it gives it its order. And it was interesting, Catherine, what did you just do? You moved the file or the assignment to a new topic, and then you went in and looked at it. What were you checking out?
Well, what I was wondering as you were talking is if I wanted to edit this assignment that I had already assigned, and I can always go in and do that. And I was looking to see if I could add more than one topic, but I don't have that choice.
And it's cool right now, this assignment, it's kind of funny because it's called map assignment. It's under the topic of maps. But if you hit save there and then physically move it, it changes in that drop-down menu next time you edit it. If you move maps to the writing, its topic now is under writing. So when you go to edit it, you'll see that it's now the topic is writing. If you moved it back to maps here, it's like physically moving it on the other one, and it will change it that way too.
I always use that analogy of my messy desk at work. I move it out of the writing pile into the maps pile, and you know that's That's how I think about it. So you can organize things pretty well. I don't think we can change the default sorting of how things work. And I'm going to look really quick in our class settings, but I don't see any options for that. I should mention that when we start asking these questions, and there are going to be some things we run into today and tomorrow also, where you go, why can't I do that thing? Seems like a no-brainer. I personally am an obnoxious person who likes to let a company know when I think they should be doing something differently. And the weird thing about Google Classroom is they actually listen to you. I know we've all experienced, making feature requests or reporting bugs in things and not getting any response. Now, Google won't write back to you, but this little question mark down here, you can do report issue or request feature when you click on that. And you can actually tell them, hey, why can't I choose a different default sort order for my topics in this page? And you can have it take a screenshot of your screen and send it to them. It's pretty detailed help system. So I encourage you to use that. One of the things that I have been known to repeatedly click and request for is a student view option, and we'll talk about that some more later as well. Historically, since Google Classroom started, they have actually taken the suggestions that teachers have put in and made them part of Google Classroom. For instance, there was no gradebook for quite a while. I don't believe there was a calendar connection at first. There were a lot of things that teachers said, hey, this is what works in a classroom. Can you do this for us? And they actually paid attention to that. So I encourage you, if you see a feature missing that you think Google Classroom should have, click that little question mark and help them out. It's okay, they like it. And like I said, you won't get a personal email back or anything, but all of a sudden a feature will appear and you'll go, hey, I helped get that in there. So it's pretty cool.
Catherine, before moving on, I did note a question in the chat. Is there a way to move or archive assignments once due to help with organization?
To move or archive assignments once they're due?
Once they've passed the classwork page, to just alleviate the mass amount of assignments on this page.
I don't think you have control over whether they drop off of here or not. Andrew, do you know if there's a limit to how many will show up? I don't think there is. Right. Okay. I just wanted to check because, just a little side note for those of us who are Google trainers, and several of us on this panel have been Google trainers for many years. Google has this fun habit of always changing stuff, which is actually great. You have to flex, but they always improve it. It's almost always a change for the better. So that's one of the things we have to be open and flexible about. But they really like to change stuff at the last minute, right before the school year starts. And I'm like, you're killing me, guys. We need time to figure this out. So when I ask that of my fellow panelists is because I always have to be open to going, hey, there might be a feature that has changed that I have not yet seen. And that does happen to all of us. So if something changes, don't panic. It's just the way of Google. To answer the question, one of the things that was not part of Google Classroom when it was first started was that there were no topics. And your classwork appeared in the stream were all one thing, and you just had this long list. Long flat list with no organization, and people were getting lost in that. Some people found that they wanted to create a new classroom every quarter or semester, every grading period, to cut down on the clutter. And that's still a good solution for some people, but they added topics, I think, to address that. But I believe if we put 100 assignments in maps, you're gonna see them all. But you can always pin the one to the top that you want to. And if I open it, this pulls down a little more detail on each assignment in the topic. And if I go back to all topics, it collapses it so I just see the title. So that's the little bit of organization that I can do.
And another thing that you can do, Catherine, too, with the other topic that you brought up around how to add them to multiple topics, add an assignment to more than one. One of the new features, you said that Google changes things quickly. Well, one of the new features is getting a link to a direct assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that link and post it in, for example, a material or another discussion, it would link them back to that assignment, and you can have it in multiple topics.
You mean copying the link within the assignment? Yes, that is new. That's right. I have forgotten already that wasn't there forever. So thank you for pointing that out. So we do have that option. I could copy the link and paste that as its own assignment in the writing topic and have a little bit more of a chance to have things show up in both places. So that was the overall organization there. We're going to get a little bit more into how to add content and add materials into your classroom. So I'm going to stay here in my classwork for a little bit. You can see that I have my topics. I have some assignments I've already created. I have some students in this class in my People tab. So when I assign things, I can choose who to assign them to. And you're going to see the options that we have as we move through here. So I'm going to start by creating an assignment with this blue Create button. And I'm just going to choose this first option, which is Assignment. So this is the screen I get when I create an assignment. I have to give it a title. Okay. And I'm going to call it Assignment 2 because I'm not feeling terribly creative this morning. Here's my opportunity to give some really high quality instructions and really think about what this might look like to a person who doesn't already know what I'm thinking, which is how my students are going to operate. Do stuff. Don't do that. That's terrible. That is a terrible example of instructions, but that's what I'm putting in the box just for now. When I decide how this assignment is going to work, I probably got in mind, what do I want students to do? And I have options for how I'm going to get them to do those things digitally. I have an Add button and I have a Create button. My Create button allows me to create these types of Google files and attach them directly to my assignment. I can create a doc, a slide presentation, a spreadsheet, a drawing, or a form for my students right here. So if I didn't create it already, I can create it within here. If I want to add something that I've already created that's in my Google Drive, I have that option over here with the Add button. I can also add a link, a file that I upload from my computer. So if I wanted to attach a Microsoft Word document, a PDF, a picture, something that was on my desktop, I could use that file button. That little paper clip is kind of universal. And I can also directly add a YouTube video for my students here. I'm going to go into Google Drive and add something that I've created. And I have a lot of recent files, which is kind of handy because I created some of these recently. And I'm going to put Assignment 2, which is a Google document, and attach that to my assignment. Now here I would give better instructions. Probably something along the lines of, please open this assignment and follow the instructions in the document. Whatever I need to tell them. I'll know after a while what level of instruction my students need. I have a very, very important option right here that you always need to make sure you're paying attention to. This defaults to students can view file. So that means that all the students in my class will have permission to view this document. If I just want them to read something, this is a great option. Students can edit file. So this can be useful in some cases, but most of the time this isn't what you want to do, because what this, I'm going to use the IRL classroom analogy again. What is it like if I'm in the physical classroom? This would be like I gave a piece of paper to my entire class and said, everybody write on this piece of paper at once. And they're all in there shoving each other out of the way and scribbling. And so, multiple people can edit a Google document at once. And if I say students can edit file, they are all editing the same file.
Now, Catherine, I know students, and I know some of us as students would not only add things all at the same time, we would remove things.
Yep.
Like that question I really didn't want to answer, I could just delete it if I had editing access. So I really appreciate your point there. We probably don't want students to all edit the same file.
Yes, and if you're confident in your Google Docs knowledge, you probably know where the document history is, and you can revert. But that's just too much detective work for me to want to deal with personally. Most of the time, the option I want to choose is make a copy for each student. So again, back to the physical classroom. I go to the copier, I make 27 copies or 38 copies, or I don't know what our class sizes are. And I bring them back to my room and I put one on everybody's desk and I pass them out for them to work on their own copy. That's usually what I'm going to choose.
Now, Catherine, this brings up that question though. There might be circumstances that I want students to all be able to edit. Like when you said passing out a paper, that's an individual for every individual.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe like Google Slides, for example, we ask them to create their own slide in the classroom and they're doing something on it. So we might want one slide deck for the whole classroom. That's where the beauty of Google comes in and you get to do what you need to. Just know the controls and what access you're giving for privileges to your students. It's the same in your classroom. You might have the whiteboard and say, come and just do something on the whiteboard, everybody. And everybody has access to erase and draw all with the whiteboard tools in your real classroom. So similarly, think about what you might do with this feature and know that you have that privilege access to change for students what they can do to the file that you attach.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to point out, and I do have an assignment that has them all editing the same one. And Jeff, if you help me remember when I go back to the list to point that out, I will. One thing about this is that if I choose students can edit file, and then I change my mind after I hit assign, this is one thing I can't edit later. This will cause me problems. So try to be really sure that you know what you want here. You can always delete and repost the assignment if you mess that up. Again, nothing is permanently broken, but it might cause yourself some chaos if you're not real careful there. So I like to spend time pointing out what that one means. Over here on my right sidebar, I have some options for how the assignment is going out. What classroom am I assigning it to? So I could assign this to just this classroom of students. I could assign it to all 3 of these classrooms or a couple of them. Why would I want to do that? Maybe I teach 2 sections of language arts and I have the same assignments for both sections, but I want to keep the classrooms separate for whatever reason. That can be really handy to be able to assign to more than one classroom. Similarly, it defaults to assigning this to all students. If Jimmy Hendricks is not going to be doing this assignment, maybe he needs an alternative assignment, or maybe he's excused from this for some reason, I can uncheck him and then only Janice will get it. You cannot, to my knowledge, unless this is another cool thing they've added while I wasn't looking, form groups in advance of students. And that is another thing I would encourage you to click the question mark and ask for, because that would be a really handy feature. It defaults to 100 points here, which is probably a bit much for do stuff. So I'm going to change that. I can change that to whatever I want. Or I can choose ungraded. Actually, that's very strange because my option for that is now showing up down at the bottom instead of right here. But I do have an option to be ungraded. I can choose a due date and a time if I want to be very specific. So I'm going to have this be due August 21st. I'm not going to put a time on it, but I could. And here's a place that I can assign a topic. I can choose not to have a topic. I can create a new topic. I can choose a topic I've already created. I also have an option to create or add a rubric. And I can create it right here, or I can reuse one that I've used before. So I'm just going to grab one that I have pre-made. And if I open it, you'll be able to see what the rubrics look like. They're pretty simple, but they look like a rubric. They look like what you are used to seeing. So I have my standard, the criteria, the descriptor, and these are terrible categories. Please do not make your rubric look like this, but as an example, that is what a rubric can look like when attached to a Google document or a Google Classroom assignment.
Just for a note, when the assignment is given a rubric like that and students are seeing their assignment, they can see the rubric in its short abbreviated form or in the long form where they can see all of the details. So they will know, for example, what they're going to be graded upon. That is, they get the rubric, which is really nice and handy. On the grading end, Catherine, I can't wait for you to see what this looks like because the rubric is really handy for assigning points.
It is pretty cool. I agree. I think it's a really good practice to give students the rubric along with the assignment. So from the very beginning, they know what they're aiming for. And you can, those are always optional on these assignments, but you do have the ability to create rubrics as you need to. Now, I know people will see this check plagiarism box at the bottom and they're going to ask questions about it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's not what you think it is, although it is pretty cool. And number two is most of you will not have access to more than 3 of these per class. This is a Google Enterprise, Education Enterprise add-on feature. There is a higher level of Google subscription that some school districts get. You might end up having it, but most do not. And you can add these plagiarism reports, but what they actually do is, at first when I saw this, I thought it was going to work like Turnitin or one of those things that will troll the web for you and find out if the person, the student has copied. But what they actually do is they don't give you that information, they give it to the student, which at first I thought that was weird. And now I think that's actually how it should be. We should put that on the student and presume positive intent, because as a student, if I have an originality check built into this, and I've been researching and typing, and maybe I copied and pasted a couple things, if I forgot to paraphrase, this gives me an alert before I turn it in to remind me to make sure it's my own words. So that's a pretty cool feature, but it's not one that you will be able to use heavily if you don't have the enterprise version. And
so this is more of a preview of what the originality report would look like.
Mhm.
And unless your district has like the next level up, so check with your district tech team and see what you have. And that might be one of those things to think about, like where do we spend our money and how do we make sure that we have the right tools for our schools? This would be one of those things, but it's not, if I'm hearing you right, Catherine, it's not all of my students. I can run thousands of originality reports just in the basic Google Classroom.
I think it's limited to 3 per classroom for the regular version of Google for
Gotcha.
education. So if I recall correctly. So just a note on that. Once I have all of my parameters figured out for my assignment, I know who I'm assigning it to, what class, how many points, when it's due, the topic, all this good stuff, what I'm
Now,
attaching, and how they're going to interact.
Catherine, you said points there. I'm confused. It says 50 points, but the rubric doesn't say 50 points.
And it does not line that up for you. So you have to keep that in mind. I could make it 60 points and then it would be 10 points per criteria. I can do that any way I want. And I can also make it an ungraded assignment. Oh, look, my little drop down came back to where it was supposed to be. That's good. But probably that's going to be the easiest way to make it match up. Yeah, and it's not going to do that for you. So keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. Now I have this blue assign button at the top right. I can just click that and it's going to go right now. So it is released into the wild the minute I hit assigned assign, my students will see it and get any notifications that they have turned on to see that I have assigned something. But I have this little triangle that drops down another menu for me. I can schedule this to go out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. If I'm going to still be drinking my coffee in my PJs, but I want to make sure the students have it, which, you know, some of us have a life like that. That sounds nice, right? Maybe I can schedule it, or I can schedule my week's worth of assignments ahead of time. If I'm not quite done and I need to improve the instructions because my instructions are not helpful, but I don't have it in me right now, I can save a draft and I can come back to this later. It will not show it to the students until I hit assign or have gone past the scheduled time that I assigned it, or I can just get rid of it. But I'm actually just going to go ahead and assign this right away. And it is assigning out in the world of Google. There it goes. Okay, so now you can see it appearing here under writing. There's assignment 2. If I click on it, here's my instructions, my rubric, my attached document, and my little heads up display of how many students have turned it in, how many students I assigned it to. So I can get an idea of whether they're paying attention to me or not. Although you should resist the temptation to just watch that. It's not going to be a good experience. They will see it and they will get to it. Now, your way of conducting your classroom may be different. Maybe you do expect them to check their notifications. That's an expectation you set, and they're supposed to get into those and start working them right away. Maybe you have a class meeting daily and you have to talk to them about the assignments that have been posted before they start. That is an organizational question for you. But you could do that a number of ways. Now, I know that we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to show you the other types of assignments you can create, and we will go in depth to a couple of things tomorrow that we won't hit on today. So when you see that there is a quiz option, we'll get to that tomorrow. I'm not going to talk about it today, so don't worry, we will get there. When I go back to my create button, there's quiz assignment. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Here's question. This creates a discussion question on this wall in my classwork for my students. How are you? I don't know. How open-ended do you want to leave these questions? Again, that depends on your students and what you think they will say. You can ask them to answer a multiple choice question, or they can type a little essay or response. You can also add attachments here, just like you could in another type of assignment. I could, for instance, add a link to an article, and I could ask them to go read this article and then post a summary or your response or whatever kind of reflection protocol I use with my students. And that would be posted on the class stream for all students to see. And then I have some decisions to make over here. Again, we decide which classroom, which students, how many points it's worth, what the due date is, and whether it has a topic. So I'm going to create a topic right here for discussions. And now I have another very important question. Do I want students to be able to reply to each other? And do I want them to be able to edit their answer after they see what other people have posted? So again, completely up to you and depends on what you think your students will do. Instead of an assign button, I have an ask button, and I have the same option to pre-schedule or save it as a draft if I'm not ready to launch it yet. But I'm going to go ahead and ask this question, even though I didn't put any instructions on there, which I do not recommend. I'm just going to pop back to my stream so you can see how these things I'm adding have affected it. So if this is kind of the home base that my students pop into when they click on my classroom, they're going to see that I posted a discussion question, an assignment. They're going to see all of the stuff that I've posted. Here I've posted a material for my students, which actually links out to a YouTube video of how to use Google Classroom. There's no harm in adding things like that to your stream to support your students. Now back to the classwork and this create button. Tonight we're hoping that you will be able to play around with this a little bit more. The material creation button just gives us the opportunity to add something like that video or a reading material for students to look at. We're not really asking them to do anything with it necessarily, or maybe the assignment that is related to it comes later. It's just something for them to use, like a library of resources. I can reuse a post. So for maybe I have a journal entry template that I want them to use, and we're going to do that every week all year. Or maybe we're doing a book study and there's a particular assignment I want them to do for each week. I can click reuse post. And not only can I go find posts that I have created in this class, I can pull posts from other classes that might be relevant across the board, depending on my organization. And Google is really taking its sweet time loading up all my classes, which is weird because I don't have that many, but that's real life. Sometimes we have to wait a minute. What you would see here if it was behaving itself was that I would have a list of classes and I would be able to select the assignment I want to repost from there. But I think I'm gonna let that marinate so that I can come back to it later. I can also just create a topic from here. So if I don't see a topic over here that I think I need, I can create it as I create the assignment, as you've seen, or I can create it here. Ding.
While Catherine's creating that topic, this reminds me that there seems to be more than one way for almost everything you would want to do. From things like when you created an assignment and you attached or could attach something from your Google Drive, you made it beforehand because you've been thinking about it or you had reused something from before, but you could also at that moment create the document for the assignment. And I really appreciate that. Just like right now, you're thinking about topics. Do I need another topic? Or maybe I want to structure my topics first. Or maybe I'm just thinking as I'm giving assignments, I'm thinking, oh, what topic does this belong to? And so how do I create my topics now? So there always seems to be a different perspective on how you're creating within the Google environment. And that's a beauty because we all have different perspectives on it. And you might find it works one way better for you, and then another day it might work better the other way. So there's always more than one way to do these things, and in particular, the order by which you do them.
Yes, and something I think, I know we're very close to the end here, so I want to wrap up, but I want to make sure I mention that we're going to look a little bit more at assignment types tomorrow. We will get into quizzes. We'll talk about assignment types or the things you attach to assignments, the activities you assign, kind of from the perspective of how we can take advantage of these tools to allow students flexibility in how they respond, which is a universal design concept. We want to see if we can give students some options. And frankly, it would be really boring if every assignment I post is read this and answer the questions in text, right? We can do better than that because we have all these awesome, cool tools. We have Jamboards, we have editable maps. We'll get into some of that tomorrow. And I'm super sad I can't get into it now because I'm excited and I really love showing people those tools because it blows their minds, and that's what I like to do. So we have gone over organization and layout. We've talked about adding materials and resources, discussion questions, assignments. I want to mention really quickly, you'll get these links, and there are some apps that integrate with Classroom. This is a link from Google that you can check out, and it'll just talk to you a little bit about what am I looking for? I'm looking for coding tools that work with Classroom. You can explore that and see what kind of cool stuff integrates with Classroom. We can pick up a little on that tomorrow. There are also some other links here for OER Commons and some support that you can get for Google Classroom. You might want to keep those links in your pocket for when you start rolling by yourself on this. And hoping that you will be able to take it some time to do this reflection. And this link is in the chat, or is going to be in the chat, right? Am I, am I wrong?
Coming up.
It's
see it's
coming
on
up.
its way.
Okay. There's also a link in the chat already for this slide deck, so you can get all these links. Again, the video takes a little bit longer to process, so we can't just send the video right after. Sorry about that. But we will get those videos to you so you can review. And what we're hoping you do tonight is explore Google Classroom some more, start setting up your organizational structure, try to add an assignment and a discussion question if you can, and maybe add a resource or a material. Anything else, Jeff, before we wrap
Yeah,
up?
I wanted to note that there are a ton of great questions that have come in that we didn't answer.
Okay.
We are looking at those, everything from things like illustrative math has a cool button that you can just upload to Google. How does that work? To how are all these other cool things and do they manage? We will work on getting those answered tomorrow as best as we can. So please tonight, go play. Let your brains have some time to think about this and enjoy the adventure. And tomorrow we'll be back. Thank you so much, everybody. In particular, thank you for Christina, L'Oreal, and Heather for all the work that you're doing to help interpret and make sure that this is available for all our learners today.
Thank you so much. We'll see you all tomorrow.